It's time. It is time for me to finally review The Testaments by Margaret Atwood. Let's go see what I have to say. Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. It's Russell with Ink and Paper Blog. How are you doing today? Happy Wednesday. I hope you guys are having a fantastic week. I hope that hump day has smoothly gone over and that you guys are headed into the weekend. This has been a good week for me as far as everything goes, but we are about to start traveling to Oregon on Saturday. We're going to be spending a week in Oregon. My grandmother is turning 92, so we are going up there for her birthday for the week. So I'm getting ready to travel, but as you know, there's always time to talk about some books. I have to say, I'm very nervous to make this video. This is going to be one where I know people have tons of opinions already. So let's get started, because today we are talking about Margaret Atwood. We are talking about The Handmaid's Tale, and we are talking about Testaments. The Testaments, I should say. So let's go ahead and start with a small review of The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. Now, this book came out, I believe, originally in 1985. I read it first in the 90s in high school, then I read it in college, and then just recently I did an Audible version of this. I'm not sponsored by Audible, but they have a fantastic version of this read by Claire Danes, which I highly, highly recommend. This book introduces us to the Republic of Gilead. What has happened is there's been a revolution, a military takeover of part of the United States, where a republic has been formed and is now at war with different groups within the United States. There's the Republic of Texas and California, so on and so forth. Inside Gilead, it's been the world has reversed itself to a time where women are really given just three roles. They can be a wife. They can be what's called a Martha, which means that they are a servant of some sort in a household, or they can be a handmaid. Handmaids are women that are known or have proven to be fertile, because what has happened is that fertility and babies have sort of started to disappear, and the handmaids are put into a role where basically their only job is to produce children for the men in power, whose normally their wives are unable to produce children for a very different variety of reasons. This is the story of Offred. Offred is a woman who is a handmaid. This book is about her training. It is about her being assigned to the house of a commander in order for them to have a child, and it's really about and builds that entire world. We learn about what the world was like beforehand, and sort of like the crisis that led to the Republic of Gilead even coming into existence. We learn a little bit about the fact that she has had a child of her own with her husband. They were trying to flee the country when they were taken in, and she doesn't know what happened to her daughter. And we learn through her sort of story about this world, about Gilead, about the Republic, about this reverse back to a time where women have only specific roles. Men really in this community or in this world only have certain roles as well. They have the position of the commanders, who are in charge of everything. You have the people who are sort of like the guards, and they also do a lot of the other sort of tasks, the yard work or the building and so on and so forth. And then you also have the eyes, which are like the Secret Service, that are looking for people who are not on board with what is happening. I did forget to mention there is another group of women. They are called the aunts, or the aunts. They run the facility that trains and teaches the young women how to become handmaids. They also teach the young women who are children, if they exist, in different things that they can do as women in this society. I loved this book. I know a lot of people who have read it recently felt that it had the possibility of being a little bit dated. I definitely feel there are some parts of it that don't hold up completely to the test of the time, but I do really feel that the story has its same vibrant nature. I was on board. I think that Offred is a phenomenal main character, and I really was, again, for like the third or fourth time, totally bought into her story and her rebellion against the society that she is being forced into. I was horrified at some of the stuff that is going on. Yeah, it is very, very good. And this book, when it came out, sort of set the tone for this dystopian future fiction. And she really does a great job of creating a believable, horrifying world and putting people in it and really getting you bought into it. So comes the question. And I think here's where all of it starts. So I think the Testament's going to have a couple things for it. Okay. One, the first question is going to be, does this book need to exist? Do we need the Testaments in order to figure out what happened? Two, people are already going to have opinions because of the hype. There are going to be people that with the book that came out are already just set to love it because they love The Handmaid's Tale, they love Margaret Atwood, and they're just going to go forward with that. There are going to be people who are set to automatically dislike the book because they want to not like the book that is utterly hyped. So they're going to be looking for reasons to just dislike it. And then there are going to be people in the middle, like me, who are going to read the book and who are going to try to give it its ups and downs. And some of us are going to fall on the like of its side. Some of us are going to fall on the dislike of its side. But I think that there's going to be this group of people who want to give it a fair chance. And I think that there are a lot of us out there that want to see why Margaret Atwood thought that the Testaments needed to be written. So let's answer the very first question. Oh, sorry, I kicked the stand there. Let's answer the very first question. Did the Testaments need to be written? In my opinion, it did not. I think The Handmaid's Tale stands on its own. I don't think we needed a follow-up. However, did I enjoy the Testaments? Am I glad that I read it? Absolutely. So let me break down to you exactly how the story goes. So in this book is told from 3 different perspectives. So what's really interesting, it's 15 years later, and 2 of the perspectives are told from the 2 women that are being interviewed. 2 women who have escaped Gilead and are now being sort of interviewed about what happened to them in Gilead, how they got there, what their lives were like. And then there is a 3rd perspective that is told sort of in a diary format. And this is from the diary of Aunt Lydia. If you guys have read the first book, you know that Aunt Lydia is the woman in charge of the school and the aunts, and she runs the place that creates the handmaids. What is fascinating about the Testaments is that none of the women's perspective are from the handmaids. So Margaret Atwood is sort of telling us as readers that we know what we need to know about the world of the handmaids from the first book. This is about the other women, the other people who are there in Gilead and sort of their role in the creation of and perpetuation of the society in which they live. Now, this book for me is 2 things. One, it is way more plot driven than I expected it to be. I felt that The Handmaid's Tale was a little bit more philosophical in tone. It had a little bit more to say about society. This book is really more driven by the plot. We have one young woman who is the daughter of a colonel and his wife who is living her life. We meet her as she is being interviewed. So she starts very young, sort of her first memories with her family, and goes forward in time, what is going to happen to her, what she's sort of being bred for. I guess that's maybe the right word. We have the story of a young woman who is outside Gilead and has been brought in to the world and sort of how she got where she is. I am going to say absolutely nothing about any of the interconnections of the story because I do not want to spoil anything. For me, personally, the strongest and the most fascinating part of this book really is the perspective of Aunt Lydia. In The Handmaid's Tale, she is made to be the villain. And in the Testaments, we learn her story. We learn what happened to her when the Republic of Gilead, why did she wind up where she was? What was done to her? What decisions did she have to make? And then also, what is the politics of running the organization that she currently runs? And the women that are involved in that, the other aunts. And there are times in her story where we really see the human nature of Aunt Lydia. And I think, to me, that was the most brilliant aspect of the Testaments. I will say I really enjoyed this book. I read it, I flew through it. It only took me a couple days to read, and it is a bit of a chunkster. I think that the plot is engaging. I think all of the characters are well developed. I think that the young girls sections, I don't know that Margaret Atwood has written a lot of literature from the point of view of young women, and at times it sort of teetered on this weird dystopian YA vibe, which worked. It worked fine, but like there was a sophistication that wasn't present in those two sections that I think is really present in the Aunt Lydia section. I think that the Aunt Lydia section is maybe a novella, could have stood on its own, but how it all ties together is very well done. There are no strings left untied. You are really going to be turning the pages. It is a story with a driving plot, and the characters are really engaging. You really, at times they are annoying, and at times they are horrifying, and at times you don't understand the decisions they're going to make, and sometimes you really do understand the decisions and you're sad for them that that's the decision that they have to make. I think that it's really, really well done. I don't want to give anything away because I definitely think that it would be very easy to spoil this book because it does have a twisty, turny plot. I will say at times there are beautiful parts to the language. I think that it has a lot to say about modern society in its own way. It makes critiques about certain things that are being done currently and certain sort of political agendas in the world regarding women and their bodies. I definitely think that Margaret Atwood has a point of view, and she definitely gets it across. And I think she is a powerful, powerful storyteller. So in the fact that I think, does The Handmaid's Tale sit on its own? Did the Testaments need to be written for that book to remain? I don't think so. But the Testaments in and of itself is a very entertaining, interesting book with some really strong characters, and also a story that you can get lost in and also be horrified by, and really can think about it as a way of how we are going to change the world that we currently live in, which I think is maybe why it does exist. It gives you an avenue to have a discussion regarding some of the stuff that is going on, especially now in countries like the United States, where we are seeing sort of this return to a time period that we had hoped was in the past. But I really think that overall the book is worth the read. I really enjoyed it. If you want to talk about more specific plot points or things in the story, I highly encourage you guys to email me. I will have conversations with you. I'm at russell@inkandpaperblog.com. I just don't want to ruin any of it because it is one of those books where every decision made by every person just sort of intertwines itself. The young woman who is has lived her whole life in Gilead, I thought she was really well done. I was really perplexed by her and felt for her as she made decisions against sort of the world that she always thought to be real. And then you have a young woman that comes in from the outside and sort of her perspective, and she's more relatable because she's sort of like the young women that I know now, and what would happen to them if they were brought into that situation. So yeah, no, there's a lot to say. But I don't want to really spoil anything. But I will say, I definitely recommend reading Margaret Atwood's The Testaments. I really enjoyed it. And I believe that these two books are definitely classics that are going to be read for many years to come. So that is my review of the new and the old Margaret Atwood. Have you guys read The Testaments yet? Have you read The Handmaid's Tale? What do you think about it? Were you excited about when the book came out? Let's have a conversation in the comments down below. As always, if you are a return subscriber, I thank you very, very much for coming back. If you are new to my channel and you are just watching this video, I hope you subscribe and come back for more. As always, I encourage you to shop locally, read globally, and until next time, happy reading. Bye!